Have you ever stood there just completely confused by a gurgling toilet or a drain that just refuses to clear no matter what you do? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. But what if I told you those little annoyances aren't so little? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden environmental forces that are waging a silent war on your home's plumbing. And understanding them, well, that's the key to protecting your biggest investment.
Oh, we've all been there, right? That weird gurgle from the toilet, like a full minute after you flush. Or that one drain that seems to defy every chemical and plunger known to man. It is so easy to just write these things off as, house stuff. But what if it's more than that? What if your house is actually trying to tell you something? What if those are whispers of a much bigger battle happening right under your feet?
You see, your home is basically sending out these little SOS signals. And they aren't just random glitches in the system. They're symptoms, clues that point to a deeper issue. And learning how to read them, that's the first step to stopping a potential disaster in its tracks.
Yeah, a lot of these probably sound super familiar, right? That gurgling toilet, a sewer smell that just kind of wafts up from a drain, or a sink that takes forever to empty. You might even notice bigger things like a soggy patch in your yard that just never ever dries out. Or maybe you get your water bill and it's suddenly way higher for no reason. These are the classic clues that your plumbing is under some serious stress.
Okay, so this is where we need to totally change how we think about this. These are not isolated problems that you can just tackle one by one. They're all interconnected clues. They're all pieces of a puzzle, and they all point to one big story: the constant, huge pressure being put on your home's entire plumbing system.
So what are these powerful forces I keep talking about? Look, we're not talking about a simple clog from too much hair or grease. We are talking about massive, natural phenomena that are in a constant battle with your house's infrastructure. These are the real villains of our story.
All right, meet culprit number 1, expansive clay soil. Now, this is not your average garden dirt. When this stuff gets wet, it swells up with an incredible amount of force. But when it dries out, it shrinks and cracks, pulling away from everything it was just supporting. Just imagine the ground beneath your home is constantly flexing like a giant, powerful muscle. That's what's happening.
And this cycle, this relentless back and forth, is really the heart of the problem. When it's wet, that soil swells up, pushing on your foundation and your pipes with a crushing force. Then when it's dry, it shrinks, it pulls away, and the ground settles. This constant push and pull is what tortures your pipe connections and can literally, over time, shift the foundation of your house. Okay, so that's villain number 1. But wait, there's more. Let's introduce our second culprit. In certain areas, the water table, that's just the level of groundwater in the soil, is only a few feet down. We're talking 3 feet sometimes. This creates something called hydrostatic pressure, which is just a fancy way of saying there's a constant upward push of water against your foundation and underground pipes, 24/7, non-stop. So let's recap. You've got shifting soil flexing on your pipes. You've got upward water pressure pushing on them. Now let's add one more thing to this dangerous mix: old pipes. A lot of homes built back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s have cast iron pipes that are now, decades later, corroding from the inside out. They become the weakest link in the whole system, just waiting to fail under all that pressure.
So what happens when these forces finally win? Well, the results are not pretty. We're moving past the subtle clues and hidden pressures now and into outright system failure. This is the moment when the ground's quiet battle against your home becomes a very loud and very, very expensive problem.
It happens like a chain reaction, a predictable, disastrous sequence. First, all that soil movement puts stress on a pipe joint until it finally separates or cracks. Then, wastewater starts leaking out, which soaks and erodes the soil directly under your home's foundation. And over time, all that erosion and pressure leads to the absolute worst-case scenario: a total collapse of the sewer line.
And that collapse can show up in a few different awful ways. You might have an old cast iron sewer line that's so corroded it just gets crushed like a soda can by the weight of the soil. Or maybe the foundation itself starts to settle as the pipes separate underneath, and that's when you see those scary cracks in your walls. Or you get a slab leak, where water is just pouring out from a broken pipe right under the concrete slab of your house.
Okay, that was all pretty grim, I know. But here's the good news. We are no longer fighting these invisible enemies completely in the dark. Modern plumbers now have this whole arsenal of high-tech tools to diagnose these exact problems with pinpoint accuracy, often way before a total catastrophe happens. I mean, the difference between the old way and the new way is just night and day.
The old school approach was basically pure guesswork, sending a snake down a drain and hoping for the best, or digging up a whole yard based on a hunch. The modern approach? It is all about diagnosis. It's about using technology to find the root cause of the problem, not just putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms.
So how do they do it? Well, this is the really cool part. They can send a tiny video camera on a long cable right down into your sewer lines to see exactly what's going on. They use electronic detectors that can literally hear water leaking underground. And with thermal imaging, they can spot moisture hiding behind your walls without having to tear anything down. It's all about getting a crystal clear picture of the problem without causing a bunch of unnecessary destruction.
But look, having all the cool gadgets is only half the battle, right? A true permanent solution isn't just about having the right tools. It's about expertise, it's about being transparent, and it's about doing the job the right way according to some very strict safety and building codes. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, the cost. Why can these repairs get so expensive? Well, the price isn't just some random number. It's based on real, concrete factors. Like, is the broken pipe easy to get to, or is it buried 6 feet under a concrete slab? Does the job require a crew to come in and do major excavation in your yard? What kind of materials are they using? And, super important, are they pulling the right permits to make sure everything is done safely and up to code?
So the big takeaway here is this. A real fix, one that's actually going to last, takes way more than just a wrench and some good intentions. It absolutely demands a licensed professional who gets the unique environmental challenges of your area and who knows all the local building codes, like the Louisiana State Plumbing Code, inside and out. This is definitely not the time for shortcuts or a weekend DIY project.
Okay, so after all of that, what does this actually mean for you? For the person who just wants their toilet to flush right? Well, this knowledge isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to empower you. It puts you in the driver's seat. It transforms you from just a passive victim of plumbing problems into a proactive guardian of your own home.
And that quote right there really, really nails it. When you understand the connection between, say, a gurgling toilet and the type of soil in your yard, you can spot trouble before it gets out of hand. You can address the root cause while it's still a manageable problem, not a foundation-cracking, bank account draining catastrophe.
So in the end, your house is always talking to you. It's telling a story through its drips, its smells, its strange sounds. Now that you know about the unseen enemies it might be up against, the real question is, are you ready to start reading the signs?